Your task is not to merely tolerate life, to just survive your internal struggles and become well adjusted. Your task is that of conquest. Your task is to engage in life fully and to affirm life. Creativity is the act of life conquest and life affirmation. And the good news is, you don't have to be an artist in the traditional sense of that word in order to engage in creativity as the act of life conquest and life affirmation. Let's talk about it. I'm going to start by reading you a quote from Colin Wilson's New Pathways to Psychology. If creativity is not to be construed as some sort of compensation mechanism, then it must be seen as the will's attempt to do more than merely cope with life, to actually achieve some degree of conquest. Freud saw life as a kind of endless battle, a tangled web of problems, most of them lying treacherously below the surface of consciousness like weed below the surface of a lake. The individual was lucky if he could just more or less hold his own with them. His attitude was bound to be defensive. According to Rank, the artist actually takes the offensive, hoping to emerge as some kind of a conqueror. Once again, Colin Wilson, New Pathways of Psychology. Now, we recognize Freud as Sigmund Freud, one of the greatest and most influential psychologists in history of psychology. We could go a step further and say one of the most influential and important thinkers in the modern age. Doesn't matter if you like him or not, doesn't matter if you agree with some of his ideas or not, he is undoubtedly one of the most influential thinkers. Now, the other name, Rank, refers to Otto Rank, his ex-disciple turned almost enemy. Now, before we address Otto Rank, who is the more important figure for us in this case, let's address Freud. Because from their conflict, we can extract something extremely valuable for you. And when I say you, I mean you, the individual who wants more than just cope with life. The individual who wants more than just survive their internal struggles. Because when you're trying to survive your internal struggles and you're trying to decipher what is going on inside of you, what is preventing you from living your life more fully, you almost always stumble across schools of thought that are limiting you, schools of thought that are teaching you to survive, to become well adjusted. They are influenced by Sigmund Freud. They are Freudian schools of psychology, either directly or indirectly. Or you stumble upon and across behavioral schools that are maybe slightly more optimistic, but essentially have a defeatist attitude towards the human being as a system to be deciphered, debugged, and fixed. And then we have another tradition that Rank largely inspired, which speaks of human growth, potential, flourishing, which views human as a whole being, not a compilation of symptoms, not a compilation of traumas and defects, but a whole being, an agent in the world. Now there's so much talk about high agency. And of course, the term, as any other term today seems, gets hijacked by tech bros and gets reduced to productivity. High agency is you are the action taker. Cool, I respect it. Let's go step further, or let's go step backward and deeper in order to go a step further and say high agency is also about understanding yourself as a complex being with the ability to have their own values and to construct themselves and to construct their own life. Okay, but enough about tech bros and reductionistic concept of high agency. Let's go back to creativity as your way of affirming life, even if you're not what most people consider to be an artist. Sigmund Freud, gets a lot of criticism for some of his controversial ideas, for some of his problematic ideas. This should not be a video giving a full analysis of Freud's work, but let's say this. He deserves decent amount or large amount of criticism that he gets, but also we have to acknowledge Freud as definitely an individual who brought a new moment to the history of psychology and who definitely contributed to a deeper analysis of human nature. However, Colin Wilson here, British philosopher, in a few sentences gives a great analysis and explanation of the core issue with Freud, and that's that his psychology and therefore his philosophy is inevitably pessimistic, because Freud does in fact aim to help sick humans, quote unquote, deal with life. That was the extent of his project, besides his personal project to be recognized as a great scientist. Let's put it out there. It's very important. It's very important when learning about different thinkers to see what their personal project was. For Freud, it was immensely important to be recognized as a great scientist. So we could say that at multiple points where there was a chance for further development of his thought, he didn't take that route because it would compromise his already well-established position as this gigantic figure in psychology. Okay, so Freud deserves some criticism. Freud deserves a lot of credit. However, even within that credit, we could say that the extent of his aim, of his professional aim, in terms of influencing others, helping others, is to help sick, unadjusted individuals cope with life and become well adjusted to society. Then we have this revolutionary thinker in Otto Rank, who was the prodigy of Freud's school of psychoanalysis and then turned into a rebel. We have this thinker who says, this doesn't seem complete. What about the human will? And now for you watching this, it doesn't matter if you believe in free will or not. There is a will. There is a human will, which was largely unaddressed and unrecognized at that point in the history of psychology. And Rank puts the will at the center of his psychology. And he starts doing his work as a writer, philosopher, and psychologist by focusing on the artist and the hero. So before Joseph Campbell's hero's journey, we have Otto Rank, who through study of history, anthropology, and mythology tries to analyze the human psyche from the perspective of the hero, or from the perspective of the myth and the artist. So, not trying to give a comprehensive analysis of Rank's work. It's impossible to do in such a short time, and he is an immensely complex thinker. But to say, most importantly, that we have a thinker who says humans could be more, humans are meant to be more, and these internal struggles that you are experiencing, these neuroses, as they were called. But today the term neurosis is a very confusing one. But neurotics, but you have heard the word neurotic, to be neurotic. These neurotics, these are not sick people that need to be fixed in order to cope with life better. No, these are people that need to re-engage in life because they are meant to aim for so much higher than just coping. And creativity is the key. Let's now make it more practical. Otto Rank sees creativity as conquest. He sees the artist, not the artist as specifically the painter or specifically the musician, but artistic type of personality. He sees the artist and the artistic type of personality as the type that asserts their own will onto the world. And you see how this is not aggressive. This is not, I'm going to walk over others. No, I'm asserting my will onto life. I'm bringing something from myself into the world. And now you might start realizing how it doesn't have to be a painting. It doesn't have to be a piece of music. It can be anything. And your life itself is an artistic project. So the first thing that I would ask you to do is to consider what type of parallel you want to make. Are you going to think of your life as a canvas and you're supposed to paint the painting of your life? Are you going to think of your life as a song that is waiting to be written? Are you going to look or consider your life as a dance that is supposed to be danced? Are you going to think of your life as a large block of marble or some other type of stone that you are supposed to carve out? So start considering your life as a piece of art, your way of living as an art form. This helps us understand, and not only understand, but engage with the idea that you don't necessarily have to be really painting. You don't necessarily have to be really writing music, playing music. It's beautiful if you do. And the more quote unquote real artists I reach, or let's remove the word real, the more traditional artists or artists I reach, the better. The more proud I am, genuinely, because I admire everyone who is creating art. Let me know in the comments if you are again painting, drawing, sculpting, making music, writing, whatever it is. However, all of you who are not doing or engaging in one of those traditional art forms, you are equally an artist of life. That's why I'm saying, first, let's think of a metaphor. What kind of art piece do I want my life to be? Maybe I want it to be a novel. Maybe on some days I want it to be a painting. But let me think of my life as an art piece. And then we go a step further and we try genuinely to engage in some form of expression on a regular basis. Now we are getting real. Now we are not just thinking about it. I'm actually posing a challenge for you. Find any form of expression. So it doesn't have to be one of the traditional art forms. Maybe you are doing yoga. That can be a form of expression. Maybe you are working with people. Working with people is a form of expression. The biggest blessing of my life, by far, besides my family and friends, has been the ability to talk with people. Every single day, I am amazed by this opportunity to talk with individuals all over the world. It's incredible. I would say that's more often than not my engagement in creativity. Myself and that person are undoubtedly bringing something new into the world when having a conversation. We are clearing out the way for them to express themselves more. But by doing so, we are already bringing something new into the world. We are changing both of ourselves in that conversation. We are both walking away from the conversation having been slightly changed. I would dare to say having at least slightly evolved into the next stage of who we are supposed to become. So a conversation is an act of creativity. Yoga, writing, cycling, playing sports, doing pottery, doing gardening, cooking. Wow, what a creative act cooking is. Beautiful. I'm going to admit right away, that's where I'm lacking. I'm the least creative when it comes to cooking and preparing meals. I'm really the stereotype of a man left to his own devices. You know, the simplest, ugliest meals just to get my nutrition in. I'm not proud to admit it, but that's the case. But some of you will find the joy of your life and the expression of your life in cooking and treating cooking as an artistic expression, a creative engagement in life. So I'm challenging you. First, think of your life itself as a piece of art and try to envision what type of piece of art, and then look for creative engagement in your daily life. Beautiful if you want to challenge yourself to engage in some of these, again, traditional art forms, but don't limit yourself to them. And I will say, of course, I will give always some priority. I am subjective. I will give some priority to writing because I see no type of person, I see no individual who would not benefit from writing. Whether maybe you're already a painter, maybe you are already a singer, maybe you are a counselor, maybe you're a gardener, maybe you're a woodworker, or however you call those amazing individuals who are creating stuff out of wood. When I see a wooden table that has been precisely crafted, oh, that's one of my favorite things. Maybe you're doing sculpting in stone. All of those people will still benefit from writing. And all of those who are not engaged in any traditional art form would benefit immensely from writing. Now, you might ask, what type of writing? I don't know what to write about, so on and so forth. You can start with brain dumping, with morning pages. You wake up and you just start writing the first thing that's on your mind, and you allow your mind to play the game of free association. So you are writing some stuff that you wouldn't read to anyone, and you're writing some stuff that doesn't make sense, but you are letting things go from your mind. Or work on what the prompts are for the current chapter of your life. Here is one prompt that all of you can write about if you're not sure what to write about. What type of piece of art do I want my life to be? That's a prompt. Go have fun with it. But as I said, I will always give some priority to writing as both a creative form of expression and a tool for achieving more clarity of mind. To summarize, think of your life as a piece of art and try to think of what type of piece of art you want your life to be. Then you will recognize that you are an artist of life. Next, not try to find, but do find creative engagement in your daily life, whether through traditional art forms or any other activity that we mentioned. And lastly, still on top of all of this, I would suggest to everyone to start writing regularly, whether it's brain dumping, whether it's creative writing. And I know plenty of people who are watching me do want to engage in creative writing, do want to share some of their insights, because I know a lot of incredibly insightful people and wise people with incredibly interesting life experiences are watching my videos. I know that already. So maybe the task for you is courage to start writing what you already know you want to write. If that's difficult, start with these easier steps, such as brain dumping, such as the prompt of what type of piece of art do I want my life to be. Start small, write 3 sentences per day. I made a lot of videos about consistency. Just scroll through my channel. Don't scroll too much. I don't want to encourage doom scrolling, but scroll through my channel, look at the videos about consistency, because that is really something that we can take care of easily, or in a straightforward and simple manner. Not necessarily easy. Nothing we're doing is easy, right? But consistency is straightforward and simple. So become the artist of your life, because you pretty much already are. The dissatisfaction with life and these blockages where you feel like you're not living your life fully, well, that's a sign that you are what Otto Rank would say, a failed artist or a frustrated artist. So the blockages are there to signal that you have not been acting as and living like an artist of life, and you are an artist. As always, friends, stay strong, love life, never feel sorry for yourself. Remember that your life is a piece of art and you are a born artist. Light that raging fire in your heart that a true artist has and always go beyond. Thank you.